Hi everyone, it's Lindy on from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to create this cute little interactive card. This is the set we'll be using and it's called the Mini Halloween Twister Set from Art Impressions, and you can see, look at all these cute little images you get. And the dies are included with this set. We're going to be using that owl today, but you can see you also get the ghost, the little cat, and the pumpkins, and also that sentiment boo that you can use as a spinner as well. The little dies there that I'm pointing to, kind of those egg-shaped dies, those are to create the frame for our twister. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we're going along. To do my stamping, I've got the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock, and I'll be stamping that using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm using that little Stampendable stamp press to press those out. For coloring, I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and I'm starting with the yellow. To do my blending, I'll be using the Zig Blender pen. All of the colors I'm using will be listed in the upper left-hand corner as we're going along. And I'll be using the light brown on this middle section of this little owl, but I'm going to be bringing in the beige and mid-brown for the wings. And I will add a little bit of that mid-brown to the center part of the owl's body as well. So I'll color in the front part of the owls just so you can see the colors that I used, and then I'll do the back portion off camera. And here's where I'm bringing in a little bit of that mid-brown. Do keep in mind that there is another mini twister set, and it's called the Mini Christmas Twister Set. And in that set, you get a little Santa, the snowmen, you get a little stocking filled with gifts, and a sentiment that says joy. So these are really fun. And I had previously done a mini twister, a Christmas one, and it was called the Mini Christmas Twister with layering stencil background. So we'll be doing some stenciling. For this background today, we're going to be doing some ink blending using our Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks. And these inks are perfect for doing this night sky blending. We'll blend out the sky using some blues and some black to give it a really spooky kind of a look. And then let's bring in a little bit of orange for the eyes. I'll be using that same orange on the feet, or on the little claws there at the bottom, and on the beak as well. Now also keep in mind that all the products I'm using today will be listed and linked down below, and also on my blog. And I've got a little bit of beige that I'm mixing in with that orange just to tone it down a little bit. So once that coloring was done, again, I did that second half of it off camera. And now I'm going to grab the coordinating dies and a little bit of Post-it tape, and we'll run these through the die cutting machine. Now when these die cut, you'll see there's a little notch at the top and at the bottom of each of these. So I'm going to glue these together. These will line up perfectly. I'm going to make sure I have a little bit of glue on those little notches, and that is going to be for our twister mechanism. Once this was glued together, we're going to add some diamond glaze to the eyes just to give them a glossy finish. And this is just a clear glaze. It does take a little bit of time to dry, so what I'm going to do is place it on the front. I'll let that dry, and then I'll place that on the back side of the eyes as well. Let's do the background panel for the front of the card. These are the rectangle A2 double stitch dies from Art Impressions. I'm going to grab that largest one and run that through the die cutting machine. Now I've got some Wilted Violet. This is the Distress Oxide ink from Tim Holtz. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start applying this. And I want some dark and light areas. I'm doing it kind of splotchy because I want our sky to kind of look a little bit foggy and misty. And then I'll switch over to the blueprint sketch. and I'll just add some of that. Now I am using the Hero Arts blending brushes to do my blending, so I'll get a really nice blend with these. And again, kind of just keeping it kind of splotchy. I don't want to fill in any particular area, just some random areas of color. The next color we'll be using is the chipped Sapphire, and that we're going to place that around the edges and just bring that in. That's going to start to frame this background a little bit better. And we want to create a night sky, so now we're going to be adding some of our darker colors and just pulling this in. And then I'm going to put a little bit here and there on this panel. Again, kind of going for that kind of foggy, nighttime sky. So I'm not being fussy about where I put it. I just want to pick some random areas and apply a little bit more color. The next color is Black Soot, and that's where we'll really give it the nighttime sky look. And I'm going to go all around the edges with the Black Soot and really kind of blend in towards the middle of the card. I don't want to go all the way in, but I am going to get a nice dark black around the edges. And I'm going to put a little bit more on those corners. You can start to see the sky is starting to really come together. And again, I'm going in with a little bit and smudging it around in the center of that panel as well. I've got some water, and I've just spritzed it from my distress sprayer onto my Wendy Vicki Make Art Station, and I'm just going to spatter this entire panel with that water, and then with a paper towel I'll just pick up any of that excess. And now we're going to add some bleed proof white. This is Doc P.H. Martin's bleed proof white. I'm going to place some on my Wendy Vicki Make Art Station, add a little bit of water to that, and then we'll spatter the entire panel. That's going to give us a little bit more of a starry look, but we're also going to add one more layer of spattering to this. So I let that dry, and then I grab my metallic pastel accents, and these are a really pretty metallic watercolor pink. And what I'm going to do is grab that kind of pinky tone. You could certainly grab any of these. There's a gold in there, there's a really pretty silver, there's like a champagne color. So pick the color that you would like to accent the most. And of course I picked the pink, so I'm going to spatter that all around, and that is going to give us the metallic look of stars in the background, and you can see that there. Going back to those rectangle A2 double stitch dies, I went ahead and die cut a second panel from that second largest one. And I'm going to use that for the inside of the card, so I inked that up the exact same way as we did that front panel. The same spattering and everything. Now, when I had this little twister piece in my hand, I thought it was a little too white. So I took some Black Soot ink and a little foam sponge dauber, and I went around the edges just to take away some of that white. And next, to create our little signpost, we're using the Crooked Lamp and Signpost set from Art Impressions. And you can see how cute this is, and we're also going to be using those branches as well. So let's go ahead and stamp that signpost again onto some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And then I want to put some words on the signpost. So to do that, I'm going to use the Halloween Season 2 paper pad. This is a double-sided paper pack. It's a 6x6. And there is this pattern paper that had all these little words on it. And we're going to grab the boo, spooky, and scary for our signpost. So I've got my detail scissors, and I'll be cutting a few of those out. So to quickly color in this signpost, I'm going to use the beige and mid-brown, as I mentioned before. And I'm going to add some nice areas of the darker brown just to give it some nice shadowing and to give it more of a spooky look. And what we're going to do is just cut out those words, but you could certainly just write them in, get a permanent marker, like a 0.1 millimeter permanent marker, something very fine, and then write in whatever you like in these little signs. But I thought it'd be fun to add the words from that paper pad because they're kind of lavender, purple, and orange. So I thought that would go really well. But again, you could use some colored gel pens to do this. So whatever is easier for you. Once I had all that shadowing done, I am going to use my detail scissors again to cut out a few of these words. And you can see how nicely these are going to fit right onto this signpost. They're just perfect for this. To give these a little bit more of a rustic look to go with our sign, I've got the black soot. I'm going back to that little sponge dauber, and I'm going to go around the edges of these just to take away any of that white. And I did that for all three of those. And now I'll just use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and glue these in place. So I glued all three of those down, and then I'm going to use my detail scissors. This set does not come with the coordinating dies, so I'll use my detail scissors. I'll cut this right on the lines. I know a lot of times I leave a little white border, but because this is a spooky card, I didn't want any white showing, so I did cut right up to those lines. So from that same paper pack, I've got this kind of diamond pattern, this harlequin pattern. And I'm going to just cut this down because we don't need all of it. This will be the bottom, kind of the grassy border on our card, if you will. So what I'm going to do, I just need a small section of it. So I cut this down to maybe about 1.5 inches. I'm going to run it through with that same larger die. And then I've got my stitched hillside borders from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to grab one of those, and we'll go ahead and die cut the top of this border. And so we'll have stitching all the way around this little border, which would be really cute. And you can see that up close. And now I've got those two branches from that same stamp set. And we're going to be stamping quite a few of the little branches on our background. So I did center the panel on my MISTI so that I would have enough room to overlap those stamps a little bit, so they kind of look like they're coming off the page. I'll stamp those and then I'll clean that off, and I'll reposition these. And again, if you need to move that panel a little bit, you could also use your larger MISTI, and then you wouldn't have to worry about doing any of that. So let's stamp that next little section of the branch. And then I did want to squeeze one more in here just to get a little bit of overlapping. And then we'll do another one up in that upper left-hand corner. And I'm just checking to see where that little owl is going to be. I don't want to have too much going on right where the owl is, but I do want him to look like he's sitting on one of those branches on the right-hand side. So I was a little bit careful about where I stamped that branch, because you can see there, I want him to look like he's sitting on top of that branch. So now I'm going to clean off my MISTI, and I just wanted to show you that. I'm using the Nuvo stamp cleaner, and I love this. I just spritz it on, and then you could easily wipe this little mat off and get it nice and clean. I didn't realize how dirty it had gotten, so I cleaned that off. So with my Archival ink, this is from Ranger. This is the ground espresso. And the reason I'm using the Archival ink to blend the top of this border is because this paper has a little bit of a finish to it. a little bit of a glossy finish, and I need some permanent ink there so that it won't rub off. Next, we've got the Halloween journal die set. We'll be using the word spooky, the happy Halloween, the bat, and the fence. And I die cut several of the little bats and 2 of the fences. And then we're going to create a standard A2 size card. So this panel measures 5.5 by 8.5. We'll score it at 4 1/4. That will give us a standard 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card. And I used some black 100-pound cardstock to create that card base. Now let's take that card panel that we created, and I'm going to just temporarily tape it to the front of the card. So I'm making sure to line that up. And then I'm taping that down with a little bit of Post-it tape. Now here's those little oval dies that I talked about earlier. And we're going to use that smaller one. But if you use the 2 of these together, you could create a little frame for your mini twister. I just wanted to show you what that would look like. We're not going to be using that today. I'm just going to be using that smaller die. And again, I want that owl to look like it's sitting on that top branch. So I'm going to position this oval right at the top of the branch. And then I'm going to tape that down with some Post-it tape. Now we will be die cutting through the 2 layers of cardstock. And I've also got my Misty T ruler to make sure that that is nice and straight. So I'm just going from point to point there and making sure that it lines up nice and straight. You don't want your little twister to be crooked. So I ran that through a couple of times, and then we can go ahead and glue this together. And this will line up perfectly. And I do want to make sure I have plenty of glue around that opening. Just because it is an interactive card, we want to make sure that's glued down nicely. Now we can go ahead and line that up. And for the border, I'm going to glue this flat. And then we're going to tuck that little signpost behind it. So I don't want to put glue all the way up to the top. I want to leave a little room so I can tuck this in behind that border. Now we have the inside panel, which again is that second largest die we use. So it's a little bit smaller than the front card panel. And that'll show through that little spinner opening. And then let's add the fences. So again, I'm going to just tuck those in behind that little border. And I've got 2 of those, and those will go right across the front of the card. So I'm just going to line those up. And I'm not lining them up perfectly. I want them to look a little bit off, just to kind of give it kind of that spooky look. And now we can add a few of those little bats. So I'm just kind of curling up the wings on these bats just a little bit, and then placing some glue right down the center. We'll add 3 of these. And then I'm going to add 2 on the inside. But first let's add the sentiment. And this is the Happy Halloween. I love this sentiment. It's really nice. I like the how it's solid on the happy and then detailed on the Halloween portion. So it's really kind of fun. And then again, I'm going to add a couple more little bats on the inside of the card. And I noticed that one kind of showed through that window, so I'm going to slide it down a little bit. And then we could pop our little twister in place. And there's a little notch. That little oval shape creates a notch. And then there's a notch on the top and the bottom of the owl. So you just want to bend it just slightly so that you can pop it right into place. And then you get that cute little twisting motion. I've got my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen, and I'm going to add some glitter to each of the bats. And then I've got the word spooky, and we'll add that right along the top of our border. And again, all the products I used today are listed and linked down below for you, as well as on my blog. So let's go ahead and take a look at the finished card. And you can see we have some beautiful sparkle in the background, and I love these little twisters. They're so much fun. Don't forget to check out that mini Christmas twister that I did, and I will list and link that down below for you. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.